In the beginning, God created. Then he created man in his own image. Then man created. Those who know him then are creative Christians.
Let's meet one of them now.
Today we're going to talk to Karen Covell, founding director of the Hollywood Prayer Network. Karen speaks and teaches around the country, challenging Christians to embrace the creative and business professionals in Hollywood with the love and compassion of Jesus. She is a published co-author of 2 books, How to Talk About Jesus Without Freaking Out, The J-Bomb, and The Day I Met God. Karen is also a producer and co-founder of JC Productions, an independent films and music production company. She's had extensive experience producing TV specials, documentaries, and children's programming. She's developing a feature film and is an active member of the Producers Guild of America. Karen is a graduate of USC and is married to her best pal, Jim, a composer. And they have 2 sons, Christopher, a script reader and consultant, and Cameron, who is an independent filmmaker. Well, now let's meet Karen Colville. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm sorry for the delay.
Don't worry about it. Golly,
Oh my
it's a
gosh,
pleasure
please
to talk
forgive
to
me.
you.
So here I am. Thank you for being patient.
Oh my goodness, you're worth being patient for.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Really good. How about you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
I'm so glad. How often do you record this podcast?
Well, I did one yesterday, and I've got another one I'm negotiating for. Actually, 2 more that I should do. I like a backlog of them in case I get disabled or something and can't do them for a while. I was just wondering, you wrote the book, The Day I Met God. How about telling us a little bit about that?
Oh, that's great. Well, my husband and I, Jim, started 31 years ago teaching a class in our home just to industry professionals called How to Talk About Jesus Without Freaking Out.
Yeah.
And we have done it ever since for 31 years. We do it at churches, we do it at our home, we do it in different venues because we want to encourage entertainment professionals who are Christians to be very naturally willing and able to share their faith. Because it's not a matter of getting someone to sit down and pray the prayer. It's really building relationships and being open about what we believe and such. And in that class, what each member has to do in the 6-week class is share their testimony. And we started hearing such unbelievable stories that we said, we've got to take some of these and put these in a book and make these available to non-believers, because we understood. There's a famous director who said, Ingmar Bergman, facts go straight to the head, but stories go straight to the heart.
They do.
And so we thought, if we can put together some powerful stories about how people's lives have been transformed by Jesus, that will be a tool to be able to share with people who are seeking. So we put it in kind of an Oprah-friendly book, The Day I Met God. We didn't say The Day I Met Jesus, because that's we call that the J-Bomb. And just found people who had the most powerful stories from all different walks of life. And now what we do is we just give them away to people seeking, people asking questions, people not really understanding, and just say, you know what? Just read about these people and you'll see how God can change your life.
I'd like to get a hold of that. How do I do that?
Oh, just send me your mailing address and I'll put one in the mail for you.
Okay, you got a deal. Because I actually thought, that is a great idea. I mean, it's just a wonderful idea. Why don't you share how you personally met the Lord?
Oh, I would love to. I grew up in a home where we went to church, but we didn't really have any understanding of who God was. It was more of a tradition. It was expected of us. And when I left for college, I was assigned a college roommate my freshman year. I came from Chicago, went to the
Uh-huh.
University of Southern California.
I'll be darned. I came from Gary, Indiana, so we're neighbors.
My dad owned a furniture factory in Peru, Indiana for 18
Really?
years. And we went to the Indy 500 every year growing up as a child. Indiana was a big part of my upbringing.
Yeah, I'll be darned. Yeah, I have so many relatives there. I don't know how to count them all, and I never get the chance to see them. Anyway, you
So
were
I
coming
came
out
to
of
college.
Chicago.
I came to college in California from Deerfield, Illinois, and this roommate was immediately my best friend. She was so loving and so encouraging and so interested in me and asked me questions and wanted to get to know me. And I soon found out that she came from a background that I had never experienced before. Alcoholic parents, divided families, divorces,
Really?
anger, drugs, awful. In fact, when she was about 11, she was taking care of her little brother because her parents were just complete drunks.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
they were walking down the street and his ball ran into the street and he ran in to get it and she watched him get killed by a car.
Oh,
I mean,
my
she
goodness.
had stories I didn't even know were possible. And yet she was the most loving person I had ever met. And throughout my freshman year of college, she would ask me questions. I would ask her questions. We would talk about God. I'd figure out who Jesus was. And 3 weeks before the end of my freshman year of college, I was walking through campus and I said, God, I want what Debbie has. But there are 3 things I do not want. I do not want to tell anybody about you because my father told me there are 2 things you do not talk about: politics and religion. I do not want to be a missionary because I saw missionaries come through my church when I was little and they were the most boring people in the world. And I don't want to go to Africa because my thought was if you become a Christian, you go to Africa. So I said, but otherwise, you have all of me. Do anything you want. And I waited for some lightning or thunder. Nothing happened. So I went to class. I came home from class, almost forgot that I had said that prayer, walked into my dorm room. And the minute I walked in, my roommate said, "What's different about you?" And I said, "Nothing. There's nothing different about me." That night we were doing homework hours later, and she stopped and goes, "Karen, what is different about you?" And I immediately thought, something's showing. What's happening? But I didn't say a word. It's like the cock that crows 3 times. The next morning, I was running out the room to go to class, and she stood in front of the door and she said, "You have to tell me, did you become a Christian?" I burst into tears. "How did you know?" "Yes, I did." Yes, we had this amazing moment. And I said, "I have to go to class. I'll talk to you later." I ran out the door, shut the door of the dorm, and said to God, "Only Debbie. I'm not telling anybody else." And for the next 3 weeks, I was faithful to that. I went home that summer. And the week after I got home back in Chicago, my mom sat me down and I thought I came from the perfect family. And she said, "Your dad and I are talking about getting divorced." I completely fell apart. And I said,
I
"Mom,
bet
you
you
have to know
did.
about Jesus. Jesus is the only one who's going to change this." And she said, "What are you talking about?" And I tried to explain what Debbie had told me. And right there, my mom said, "Would you pray for me?" And I prayed for her there, and she became a Christian. And she said, "You've got to tell your grandmother." And 2 weeks later, she lined up lunch at a restaurant and sat me down and said, "Tell your grandmother what you told me." And right there, I prayed with my grandmother to become a Christian. And that started a life of I love telling people about Jesus. So that was the first thing I messed up when I told God. Then years later, Jim and I, my husband, were in the entertainment industry, and we realized this is a really hard place to live and work. We need to start a prayer group. So we got we had trouble finding some people to pray with who were industry professionals and Christians. We
Yeah.
found 6 people, started a prayer group that lasted 33 years. It
Wow.
grew to over 150 people coming in and out all the time. And in that process, we realized, do you know that we are missionaries in the world's most influential mission field?
That's
And
right.
as we embrace that understanding that we were not here just to work, we were here to share our faith, to love people, to serve them, to build up the body of Christians here that was so small. And so the second thing I told God, turned around, and I got joy out of being a missionary. Then after our children, we have 2 boys, after our boys were born, we wanted to give them a wider perspective of life. And so we went to World Vision and said, we'd like to adopt a child. And of course, they sent us a boy from Africa. We fell completely in love with him. We even
Bet you
went
did.
to Africa as the greatest trip of my life, the 4 of us together. And on the way home in the plane, I said, God, do you know the 3 things I said I didn't want are 3 of the greatest joys of my life.
Isn't that something? I mean, that's so God. I mean,
Oh God,
it is so God. Yeah,
just
I'd love to
amazing.
see him work. He's a God of contradictions and impossibilities. Gosh, you can't see, but I actually have tears in my eyes.
Oh,
That is such a beautiful story. Let
oh,
me,
thank you.
you are in a tough industry. I mean, there's no getting around that. How has has Hollywood changed in the 31 years that you've been praying, or 33 years that you've been praying?
I think it's changed dramatically, and I do not take personal credit for it, but I do believe that Jim and I were called to Hollywood at a time when God decided to shift the land here. And he brought in more Christians suddenly in the early 80s to come together to say, you know what, we need to be here. We shouldn't flee. There is still a lie that has lived in the church for decades, thinking that Hollywood is evil, that Christians shouldn't be here, that the giants are too big in the land. And it's a complete lie from the enemy. And the early 80s, Christians started thinking about that and realizing that. And so we got to be privileged enough to be a part of an influx of believers. We now know of over 10,000 Christians in Hollywood. There
Really?
are 18 active Christian ministries run by industry professionals. We all love each other, pray for each other, work with each other. We have the Hollywood Prayer Network has 160 chapters around the world in 40 countries praying for the global entertainment industry. The celebrities who now are professing of faith in Jesus is unbelievable. People boldly saying that they now realize they need Jesus. In fact, this morning, there was a song that was released by Eminem and Kanye West that's all about Jesus as their savior. Incredible. We're seeing this happening all the time. I just came back from an artist summit at the Vatican where there were 20 celebrities in the global entertainment industry, 8 of them from Hollywood, who profess a belief in Jesus and want to make an eternal difference. And we sat and talked to the Pope, and he talked about how important the arts are and how we need to really buckle down and be serious about our faith. I mean, it was beautiful. There are things happening all the time that are beyond what man can do. And so we see God moving here.
As you're talking, of course, this is different than me, an outsider, seeing Hollywood, because what we're seeing is what Hollywood produces.
Yes.
And I mean, it's
It's
not
tough.
something you want to take your kids to half the time. So
Well,
how
when
does that
sin abounds, grace abounds even more. So sin is abounding in Hollywood, but grace is abounding even more. And as we see programs that are destructive, that are violent, that are sexual, that are pulling down the family, we also see The Chosen, an incredible series that is beautifully depicting the life of Jesus in a way that millions of people around the globe are watching. We're seeing ministries growing here. We're seeing people turn to the Lord, Jewish people finding their Messiah. People that had no way of learning about God are now working alongside Christians and asking them questions about God where they never would have gotten answers before now. So we want to give the message out to Christians outside of Hollywood. Don't give up on this land. The giants are not too big. The problem is all the Christians left, and now they're coming back. And as they come back, the light is brighter, the salt is tastier, the lives are being more reflective of godly ways. And the last thing to change is the programming, because the programs won't change until the hearts of the people creating them change. And we are now focusing on the hearts of the creators. And when they start changing more, the content they create will change. And then Christians will see the difference.
Well, how are you doing that?
We have 3 different ways that we do it. The first way is we get Christians on the outside praying for the people in Hollywood. I do anything I can to get Christians to pray, because if you pray for someone, you can't hate them. And as you pray, their hearts start melting. Actually, the prayer's heart starts melting too. So that's really a perfect godly divine ecosystem. But we get Christians praying for people in Hollywood. Anytime I hear a conversion story of someone, they always find that someone was praying for them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we build the community of Christians in Hollywood so that we have more strength in numbers, so that we are praying for each other, so that we're more visible as a community. And so the Christians are noticed as being people who love each other and love other people. And that helps as well. And the third thing we do is we train Christian professionals here to share their faith so that more of the non-believers in Hollywood can hear about Jesus and be able to change their lives. And those 3 things have to go on at the same time. While the outsiders are praying for insiders, we encourage them. If you know young Christians with a lot of talent, bring them to this place. We'll get them in a church. We'll get them in a small group. We'll take care of them. Don't be afraid. But we need more Christians here. Then we build up the community, and then we share our faith. And it's all happening.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking that it would be nice to have a place where Christians, well, almost a Christian streaming service, where what we're talking about is all these movies and all these documentaries. I mean, you've done documentaries and shows for kids and that kind of thing. All these things with a Christian heart would have a place to show and a place to be brought into the home, like a Christian streaming network. Is there anything in the works like that?
There are things actually going like that. There is Up TV that used to be the gospel channel that is sharing and screening all kinds of family programming. Lionsgate made a production deal with the Irwin brothers so that they are now a commercial production company and distribution company putting money into Christian faith-based movies. There is Affirm Films as a part of Sony Studios that has made a deal with PureFlix where they are putting money into the production and distribution of those films. There's also services that offer recuts of programs that don't have all the swearing and the sex in them and such. There's a lot already going on, and more ideas keep taking place because more Christians are getting involved in entertainment.
Let me just say, your positivity in this is almost saying like you've solved the problem. And I'm just wondering what is left to be. If I were to pray for something specific, what would I pray for?
I would pray for 3 things that we need. We need more Christians not hating Hollywood or being afraid of it or not willing to be a part of it. Because the more Christians who recognize this place as the world's most influential mission field, we will get more prayers, we'll get more talented believers, we'll get more money, we'll get more resources. That's one very important prayer. A second one is to pray that our Christian community here grows and grows so that we can be even a more visible voice in our industry. And the third thing is we need to pray for more people who don't know Jesus in the entertainment industry, the decision makers, the celebrities, the people involved in all aspects of storytelling to come to know Jesus. So we need more Christians sharing their faith. Those three things need to happen. My goal after 21 years of running this ministry is that the Hollywood Prayer Network someday will not be needed. And we are a long ways from that, but we've seen a huge growth already. So we just keep showing up. It's a very slow moving mission field, but that we're seeing signs of change. We're seeing more people get a vision for it. We need Christians with money, not to pour into projects that are a waste of time, but to know wisely where to invest their money. We need people to come in as excellent craftspeople who can walk and work alongside non-believers. And we need to grow as a community here. And we need more prayer. I think, I think it was Chesterton, or was it, I don't remember who said, prayer is not preparation for the greater work. Prayer is the greater work. And that's what we need as a foundation for everything else that's happening.
I'm thinking of Dallas Jenkins, who told his dad recently that Hollywood is in the work of not making movies. Would you answer Dallas somehow in that?
I didn't hear that quote. What does he mean by that?
Well, I have a feeling, I've heard that he has something like $100 million that he's planning on spending on productions. I would assume, if I know the Jenkins family, who is, very creative people.
Absolutely.
He probably has something in mind of another series, perhaps, or maybe making The Chosen into a movie or a series of movies, that kind of thing. And it sounds like Hollywood gave him a pass. I don't know that. I'm just saying what he said to his father.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing this up because I just want to get your answer to that, because
my feeling is.
Yeah, go ahead.
What? No, you go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, one of the things I've always wanted to do is to write a screenplay, and I write a couple of them, but I have no idea what to do with them. And they're Christian, and again, I don't want you to be my agent and go out and find me something. That's not what I want. But I'm just trying to, if we're going to bring people in, there has to be a way to do that, and a way that somebody who's sitting out in Ohio that has an idea for something can share it and actually have somebody with a sense of reality about what's going on in Hollywood be willing to say something about it. So I
have two responses to that. One is being a screenwriter, having ideas, trying to make them films is like wanting to be a surgeon, but not going to medical school, not getting to be excellent at what they do, and not committing their life to that career. There are many Christians that come to me and say, I have an idea and I'm so mad no one will make it into a movie. Well, but you're a fireman and you have an idea, but that writing is not your life. It's not your career. We have Christians that have given up their entire life to be writers here. And that we try to be the best we can be. We go to classes. We continue to write more scripts. Just having an idea is not good enough to make an excellent movie. It's a career to be here. So what we want to do is to get people who are committed to their life of art, of creativity, of storytelling as Christians to come here, have them be strong in their faith, have them be excellent at what they do, and have them be willing to be here for the long haul to make those great stories, not just to come in, try to change the industry and leave, but to say, This is a mission field where we need long-term people who really are committed both to God and to the craft. The other thing is to know that there are many Christian companies that are making independent films. They don't have to be in Hollywood. They're making independent projects. The Irwin brothers were making films for years before they came to Hollywood and connected with Lionsgate. The Kendrick brothers, they're not a part of Hollywood. They're making films like that. So if there's somebody that really has a great idea, they need to research where are the Christians outside of Hollywood that are actually making films. And there are people like that they can go to them and they can say, here's an idea. Can you help me to craft this and get this to a place where maybe we can make this independent film?
You're working on the pre-production side of a motion picture right now, are you not?
I am.
What kind of project is that? Do you mind my asking?
It's based on a true story. I love true stories.
Very cool.
I come out of documentaries, and I found an amazing story from the mid 1800s of a stagecoach driver who was famous in California for being great with children, for killing a bandit that was about to wipe out their coach, to helping people. And when this stagecoach driver died, it was discovered that he was a woman. It was Charlie Parkhurst, a young girl from the East Coast who was an orphan and had a choice at a young age. As an orphan, the girl's only choices were to be a housemaid or a prostitute. And she loved horses. And the only way they would allow her to be in the barn with the horses is if she pretended to be a boy. So she dressed as a boy, got to be an excellent stagecoach driver, moved to California. She now has a museum right by her tombstone in Watsonville, California. She was an amazing woman who had to survive. And it's not a gender story, it's a survival story. And it's a beautiful story about an amazing woman. And that's where I am now putting together the financing, packaging a director. We have a script. We have a lot of the elements that we need. And that's one of the stories I want to tell.
Are you going to be the producer on it, or?
Yeah, one of the producers. There are always a lot of producers on films, but I am one of the producers on it.
Yeah. Is it going to go through JC production, or?
It will go through a partnership I have called Joint Effort, which is with another woman who is my producing partner.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and she wrote the script. We're producing it and bringing on other people to fulfill the project.
Wow.
So,
how long have you been working on that project?
Oh, over a decade. It's been a long haul. Yes. But again, because I can't get a studio to pick it up the way I want to tell the story, we're going independently. And that's what people have to do who want to tell stories. There are two markets. There's the commercial studio market. And you see that's mostly graphic novels. It's DC Comics. It's a lot of big, they call them tent pole movies. And then the smaller stories that you want to tell have to go independently. People raising their own money, going through smaller production companies. It's a business, and we have to figure out which venue in that business we can follow to get the job done.
Well, if you're going in the independent route, the issue still is where you're going to show it. And is the idea to be in theaters for a little while and then go to a streaming service, or what's your thought on that?
There really are both options now. There are people waiting just for theatrical, but there are also people that want to go straight to streaming, and they can make deals with Hulu or Netflix or Showtime or something. And both are options depending on the type of project that it is. There are some films like Avatar that James Cameron did that are much better in a big movie theater. You don't get the full expression of them.
I know you really do need IMAX on that.
You do in some of these things, and it's available as technology, so why not use it? But there are other stories. I think a big one that a lot of people have known for years now is The Blind Side. It's a very solid, beautiful commercial story, but tells a gospel story and can be seen in your home on the TV screen and be just as impactful. So it depends on the type of project that people have. What's the best way to do it? We are turning Charlie Parkhurst right now into a limited series because there's so much rich history. There are other women and men to bring into the story that we broke it down into a 5-part series.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, and so just dealing with what type of story you're telling and what's the best way to tell it is part of the project process.
Yeah, I think with all the I think with all the venues nowadays, I mean, with
Oh,
everybody streaming and so many different streaming services, and
right.
um, the well, I guess the series has become even more important than before, and they're all in the kind of the European venue kind of idea, where they're going 8 or 5 or 6 episodes, and they call that a series. And it is. It just
It is.
allows them to you get far more detail and far more characterization and character, construction and so forth.
Exactly.
Um,
It really started with the BBC years ago. They started doing shorter numbers of episodes, but longer in time. And it became something that America thought, oh, this is working. And so that had an influence on our storytelling. The
yeah,
entertainment industry is an exponentially changing industry because the technology keeps changing, the venues of where to screen something, the higher costs, the number of people trying to get projects done. It's always evolving and changing. And so we have to every day be willing to try to reinvent ourselves. Where does it go here? My husband's a composer. He used to hire full orchestras. They just don't do that very often anymore, except for some of the major movies. And so he had to set up a whole synth studio. And so he keeps changing based on, what happens, where the budgets are, technology, what people want to listen to. So we know as artists, it's always and ever changing, and we just have to keep adjusting.
well, which brings us back to this bringing Jesus into it. It would seem to me that just as the technology is changing, maybe some of the techniques that we use for evangelism are changing as well. Is that true?
Oh, that's so true. I can't tell you, Bill. It used to be telling the facts of the Bible and letting people understand who God is, why you need him. Now it's storytelling. It's telling people how your life has changed, how Jesus, the story of what Jesus did and where he went and how he impacted people. And it's building relationships. We don't sit down and just say, okay, this is what you need to know about the Bible. We ask questions. We find out about their background. We find out what their relationship with their father is, because if you know the relationship with their earthly father, you'll know how to present a relationship with the heavenly father. We need to spend more time with people. People are hungry for relationship. And so I don't use the word technique. Our approach to wanting to share our faith with people is to get to know them, to love them, to pray for them, to ask them questions, to spend time with them, and to let them trust us so that they'll open up about their life and be willing to open up their needs and their desires so that we can offer the gospel as an answer.
Well, that is, uh, when you're on a production, for instance, you're on a 10-week shoot or a 15-week shoot, or if you're in something big, it could 6 month shoot. And then when you're talking about knowing somebody or working with somebody for 6 months, it's different than working with them for 10 weeks. And I'm wondering on the shorter things, and particularly independent kind of things that are working on a shoestring, is there difference in the way you do things?
There is. You have to be more direct and more strategic in getting to the heart of the conversations. And it's just like it's harder to share with your family, even though you know them long term, than it is to share with somebody who you don't know.
Yeah.
When you walk into a shorter shoot, you don't know these people. We're in a very nomadic industry. we compare Hollywood with the Maasai tribe in Africa. There are so many similarities. We have our own language that we speak. We have our own gods that we worship, the Oscar god, the Emmy god, the Grammy god. We have our own traditions, and we're very nomadic. And so we have to understand, walking into a new project, these people are hurting. How do we take advantage of the time that we have and pour into them and make ourselves available and get to it, instead of the longer term, we'll just build long-term relationships. So it's different all the time. And that's one of the things we talk about with our people. In a nomadic society, how do you become more spiritually significant than if you're just going to take the time long-term to build a relationship with somebody?
Well, let's pretend that you just meet me on a set, and you notice maybe I have a frown on my face. How would you approach me, or what would you do to me?
Well, it's different, men with men, women with women, women with men. But we do say, sit down and say, hey, how you doing today? What's going on in your life? Have you been in Hollywood long? What's your family background? Where do you come from? Are your parents around? Do you have a good relationship with them? What's your relationship with your father? We ask questions, we find out, and people always are thankful that someone cares about them personally. They want to answer those questions. They want to open up. I had a situation one time where I was doing a TV show, producing on a TV show, and I got to interview Hugh Hefner. And we decided we were not going to use this 1 hour TV special to just highlight all the things Hugh Hefner has accomplished, but we would find out why he became who he was. And so we went back to his childhood. We went back to his parents and their friends and their neighbors, and started asking him personal questions. And after that interview, he said that was his favorite interview ever, because no one had asked him about his childhood, about his relationship with his parents, about what they believed in his family. He started talking about how they believed in God, but it wasn't a very loving family. He got right into things because we cared about him and asked him personal questions that a lot of people don't think or bother to ask.
You have two sons. Tell me about, were you involved in bringing them to the Lord, or did they do it on some camp someplace? Or tell me about that.
Both of our boys became Christians at about 5 years old with us at home. It was wonderful. And
what a magic moment. What a magic moment.
Magic. And Jim baptized both of them.
Really?
Yes. In our church, when they were ready to get baptized, he said, can I be the one to do it? And they said, absolutely. So
praise God.
He did that. We have walked with them for years and just memorized scripture and prayed for people, and just made it a part of our lifestyle.
Very cool. One of them's an independent producer right now, has his own independent company. Is that right?
Both of our sons are in the entertainment industry. My older son is a script reader. He has his own company called thescriptreader.com, and he reads scripts for producers, for writers, for agents, for production companies. My younger son, and my older son is in LA. My younger son is in New York City. He's an independent filmmaker. He gets hired to shoot things, to build visual effects, to run camera. So they're both in the entertainment industry on two different coasts.
Very cool. Every time I talk to someone from the industry, they're waiting for their next job.
Oh.
How much of that goes on? I mean, it's got to be a place where you either cling to Jesus or you go crazy.
You just defined it. That's exactly what it is. This is being an artist, especially in America, is so difficult. We don't get a lot of government funding for art. There are other countries who literally the government pays for films, TV shows, books, plays, artwork. We don't do that as a nation. So artists are on their own here. We have to be freelancers, and we have to live one job to the next. And one of the ways that we really minister to people here in Hollywood is to help them get through those times between jobs when they wonder if they'll ever work again, where they don't know how to pay their rent, where they don't get support from their family. They have parents telling them, get a real job. It's a really difficult path, especially for Christians who truly believe God has called them to this. He's given them the gifts and talents to do it, but they're often pushed against a wall in trying to make it happen because of how difficult. So we have a lot of prayer time with people saying, how can we help you? What can we do to get you in community? And let's use our contacts to help people get work. But honestly, I would rather do this and need Jesus desperately every single day than have some cushy job, go home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed, show up the next day, and not need Jesus. We need him here. The Christians here cling to him, cling to each other, and we grow in our faith and get stronger.
That's that actually is it's an exciting image, and I'm looking at the fact that you've been working on this one project for a decade, which tells me that your attention span is about a decade longer than mine. It really is, and you've done this. I would assume up to this point you haven't been getting paid for any of that time, and there's probably a lot of travel expense and all those kind of things, and communications expense, particularly if you're looking for someone to play a part. You might go through 1,000 faces before you find the one you want.
Yes.
How do you support yourself during all of that?
Well, I get jobs. I get hired to produce a special. I fortunately have always just worked as a producer. Jim has always worked as a composer. It's miraculous. We are not big names on billboards, but God has been faithful to keep us working. We also have to be very creative at times when the money is not coming in, and we have to pull out from what the little bit that we've saved. We have a joke that we really don't use the S word in our house, savings, because we're not very good at that because it needs to be used all the time. But
I spend everything I get.
Oh my gosh, we trust God. We look to him, and I'm telling you, it's miraculous how he has kept us going. We use our creativity, and he just keeps slowly bringing it in. It's not always easy, but we've been here almost 40 years working.
Yeah, I'm amazed at God's provision, and it always comes at the last minute. It's his greatest teaching in terms of faith in him is his provision. And have you seen that true in your life?
Oh, he's not the 11th hour God. He's the 13th hour God. He wants us to have to need him so desperately that there's nothing we can do on our own. And then he shows up in miraculous ways, gets all the glory, and our faith grows. And that's my relationship with him.
Yeah, and I would see that kind of faith is very important in the mission that you've taken on, or that God has placed you in, and that you have said yes. Is that a true statement? Or?
Oh, Jim and I talk about how God has fortunately given us the gift of faith, and that's what keeps us going, because we stay positive. We haven't gotten bitter. We know God is faithful. We've had to let go of dreams that we've had and goals and desires of our own because God's weren't exactly in line with ours, but we found it's always better than what we thought. But along the way, it's hard. And we just have finally, after almost 40 years, said, God is so faithful that we know we've got to trust him every single day, and he makes it work.
That's so cool. You said you had gone to the Vatican just recently, and on a kind of support the arts kind of mission. obviously you got a chance to speak to some people that are fairly influential in all of that. Uh,
I'm
are are you going someplace?
well, I just looked and my computer is plugged in and it's not charging. And so
Oh
I
my
have
goodness.
8% left and my cord is doesn't seem to be working, and I'm concerned about that. So I'm trying to get,
Are we coming to the end then, or?
well, I have 8% and my cord for some reason, I don't want this to shoot. It's not charging and I don't know why. So I'm going to have 8% here. I'm going to do the best I can and then
Oh, that's okay. The question was simple, is that how would you see that visit was a success? Or do you see that you'll never know? It could be just something that happens. What's your thought on that?
I know it was a success, and I'll tell you why. It's because we had 20 people from varying backgrounds, from varying faiths, all who love God, but in different ways, get together and say, I was not one of the artists, but I was helping to put it together. These artists have global platforms. They reach the world and they inspired each other to make more good of that, to realize the responsibility of that, to be inspired to bring God more into that. These people left with a bigger vision of how they can have a global impact than when they came. And that is miraculous. I'm
Is
going to
that
get
true
together
of
with
you?
some of them.
Is
What?
that true of you as well? I mean, is your vision bigger than it was when you went? Or?
My vision has been pretty big.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
This was an answer to prayer to have other people get a chance to see my vision. I believe we can change the world through the arts if we can get Christians to really be committed and to watch these people who really left saying, I want to make a bigger difference, is exactly a part of my vision. And so I'm going to follow up. We're going to get together here. We're going to empower and encourage each other to keep this going. It's not a one-off. It's
No,
really a vision that needs to be fulfilled. And I believe it started there for some. It was encouraged for others. And it was really solidified for others.
I look at what you're doing, and what I see is someone with a drive and a commitment and a story, not only a personal one, but one that you're gathering from other people. And I see you just going through like a rocket, and touching everything you can as you go. Does that kind of see how you see yourself, or?
Well, I don't think about it because it's just normal for me. But people have told Jim and I that he is an immovable object that has been put together with an unstoppable force. So
I love
we
that.
laugh about that. We don't think about it ourselves. He is a solid rock. He knows scripture. He is committed to the word. He disciples men. He is immovable. And I am this burst of energy that doesn't stop. God has given me more than I know what to do with. I take spiritual gifts tests, and my gift of what is the one? It's the energy level that I have. It's over the top. My optimism over the top. I just am made that way. And so I have always had a bigger vision than I ever think I can live out myself. But if I can open doors and then have other people come in and help finish it, that's what I do. And then Jim just prays and lets it happen and supports me and brings other people into it and stays the consistent man of God. And the two of us have been married 38 and a half years, and we love every second of it.
Oh, praise God. Praise God. Have you ever found yourself in a low spot?
Oh, I do. I get discouraged because what I want to see happen is taking longer than I hope, and getting such resistance from a lot of Christians for my vision is discouraging, but I've realized it's not a battle against flesh and blood. It's against spiritual principalities in the heavenly realms. And the enemy turns Christians onto Christians against Christians. And so I don't blame people, but I get discouraged. And then there's Jim to build me up, to say, don't give up, don't lose focus. Our family motto is from the very fun film called Galaxy Quest. And it's never give up,
My wife
never
loves
surrender.
that film.
Does she?
That's
Never
one of the
give up,
great
never
films.
surrender.
And what's the saying? I didn't hear. I apologize.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I cut you off saying it's one of your wife's favorite films, right?
It is. It is. Every time it's on, she wants to watch it.
You tell her our family motto for the last 20 years because of that film is never give up, never surrender.
That's it. That's it.
That's
and
it.
You're in a place where you can't give up and you can't surrender.
We can't. We have to keep moving forward.
Mile a minute.
And we just do it with the joy of the Lord is our strength. And the obstacles that come along the way, we believe are because we're doing the right thing and the enemy doesn't want it to happen. And so we better just keep going.
Now this is going to be my last question. Okay. Because you're just so much fun to talk to. I probably, SC&E would run out of electricity before I'd finish up here. But the question I have is, is there someone else besides yourself that it would be good for me to talk to, just to get a feeling of how they, as an independent contractor, or they as a this, that, and the other thing, are going from day to day, trying to, number one, be a good Christian, and number two, spread the gospel.
I have so many people I could put you in touch with, Bill. My first thought is a dear friend of mine, Shun Lee, who was an attorney in Omaha, Nebraska, and was just miserable and said, I have to come and use my gift of worship and of creativity in Hollywood. And he walked away from being an attorney, and he is making an eternal difference here with his work, with his ministry. There's so many people like that. There are wardrobe people, costume designers, cameramen, first assistant directors, people all over the industry whose life is because God gave them those gifts to share their faith here and to live out their Christian life here. And they would be happy to talk to you. So if you want to talk to someone else, I will put you in touch with people.
Well, I'm thinking the more we talk about this, the more we get people thinking about it. And that's what I'm thinking about.
Oh, I would love to. We will talk, and I will put you in email connection with someone and say, would you be on Bill's podcast?
Oh, that's more than I could ever hope for. Thank you very much.
I
want to thank you for your time. Golly, you're just so much fun to talk to. And my prayers, they really do go to Hollywood every now and then. I like everybody, I'm praying for a lot of people, but Hollywood, there's something about it that has so much influence with so many people that we need that. We need that to be in God's side. So.
Well, I wonder if you want to, we have prayer partnerships where we match men with men and women with women. And we always are short on male intercessors who are willing to take one Christian industry professional.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Them.
Love to do that.
You have made my day.
Just to help and to pray for them, and maybe there's something physical I can do. I'd love to do something like that.
Bill, that's such a gift. I tell you, I'm going to send you the day I met God. I'm going to put you in touch with Shun Lee and other people to interview, and I'm going to send you the info about the prayer partnerships, and that's all a joy.
Oh, God bless you, sweetheart. You have just a wonderful day, and if I ever get a chance to talk to your husband, I would love to talk to him. Being a composer is putting together music for the Lord is just a magnificent thought. So At any
And
rate,
he's got a new project. I'm going to put you in touch with him for your podcast. He not only writes music for television, he just finished 50 episodes of the animated cartoon Tom and Jerry, but he also is writing an oratorio comparing the crucifixion of Jesus with the lynching of African Americans.
oh my goodness.
So you've got a lot to talk about with him.
Wow. Yeah, I would love to. Well, you have a wonderful day. God bless you. Just
Oh.
God bless your work and God bless everything that's going on there.
Well, you too, Bill. Thank you so much. And I apologize for the delay, but I hope you got everything you wanted.
I'd waited all day for you. So you have a great day and God bless.
Thank you. You too. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Our next podcast will feature a gentleman who gave up a successful 5-year career as a lawyer in the Midwest to come to LA to try his hand at acting. Since then, he's performed at a number of films, has written books and screenplays, is the principal in a production company, and is the president and creative director in an arts and media company that helps Hollywood professionals solve problems and perfect their craft. If you're going to miss any of the Creative Christian podcasts, it shouldn't be this one. God bless and see you then. Until next time, be a creative Christian.